Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our next session in the Empowering Every Voice webinar series. My name is Jennifer Snyder. I am a program coordinator at the SUNY Center for Professional Development. I'd like to introduce Cheryl Hamilton, our Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Life, Opportunity Programs, and Student Advocate to get us started.
Thank you so much, Jen, and good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see all of you. It is Friday, the sun is shining, and it's International Women's Day. And we are delighted to have three phenomenal women speaking today, providing information to us on how we support the success of our adult learners. We have a panel including Rochelle Duncan. Rochelle is the project manager in the Office of Community Colleges and the Education Pipeline. She oversees the SUNY REACH grant and has been working in higher education for 7 years. Her focus is supporting changes in higher education to bridge the gap for students from underrepresented groups and to promote equity and inclusion for first-generation college students. We also have joining us Dr. Carol Myers. Carol is the Director of Academic Affairs for the University Center for Academic and Workforce Development. She oversees instruction for 11 adult education centers across New York. She has taught Spanish and ESL for grades K through 12, and she has led academic and vocational programming at the Capital District Educational Opportunity Center, or EOC. We also have Susan Warner joining us. Susan is the manager of online student support for SUNY Online. In a previous role, she served as the lead success coordinator for SUNY Online, and she has spearheaded the training and leadership of the SUNY Online Degrees at Scale Student Success Coaching Team. Phenomenal work. We are pleased to hear from all three of these presenters. Because we have very full presentations, we're going to ask that you save your questions till the very end. And I am now pleased to present to you Rochelle Duncan.
Thank you, Cheryl. I just want to say good afternoon to everyone. So I'm going to be sharing from 2 screens. So if you see me, keep looking left or right. It's just looking at one of the screens just to ensure that you're seeing the presentation. Can everyone see my screen? I think I'm seeing Carol. Are you seeing that? All right. So we all know we're in the right place. We are at another session of Empowering Every Voice, Understanding and Supporting the Adult Learner. When we talk about adult learners, generally speaking, adult learners can be defined as any learner over the age of 25 who did not go to college right out of high school. Rather, they took some time to work or even start a family before pursuing higher education. They also can be students who started college and then had to take a step back to pursue other responsibilities for a while before returning to school. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, adult learners make up around half of all the students enrolled in higher education. Both adult learners don't need to be on college campuses to expand their knowledges. Thanks to training, conferences, online learning, hands-on job training, adults can increase their skills on the job also. Adult learners already have a lot on their plate. We're talking about adults with various responsibilities. We're talking balancing jobs, families, different hobbies, health, home, you know it. They're much more seasoned at multitasking than our younger learners and are more selfish with their time. Just for the purpose of our time today, I'm going to highlight 3 unique qualities of our adult learners. 1, autonomous. Adults have the ability to pick and choose what's important to them, so they sometimes feel less than engaged with heavily prescriptive and forced learning events. Having various learning options is typically important for them in order to fit in with their current life responsibilities. 2, they're very goal and results oriented. Adult learners are much more judicious with their time than younger learners. If they don't immediately see the benefit or a way to measure their progress or proficiency, they're less likely to engage in a meaningful way. They want to know what's in it for them. What are the best results or the maximum result that they will be benefiting from what they're working on. 3, they need community. They like having a sense of responsibility. Many self-directed adult learners prefer a learning community with whom they can interact, discuss questions, share issues and concerns. And so having a learner's sense of belonging while in college can affect psychological well-being, academic achievement, and life satisfaction. It is to be noted that many times adult learners from underrepresented groups sometimes find themselves in an educational environment that threaten their sense of belonging, academic achievement, and well-being. When we talk about the barriers, it's the same. When we talk about unique adult learners having unique qualities, we could go on a list. We could go down the rabbit hole. The same with the barriers. There's several barriers for adult learners. And so the 3 that I'll mainly discuss today are 1, systematic issues in higher education, and that varies from policies, programs, and procedures, which are inherently inequitable. So the aim for institutions should not to be ignore race, rather it should create environments where racial, ethnic, and cultural backgrounds and lived experiences are acknowledged and valued, where students of color feel they belong and they can thrive. These practices should be integrated into every part of students' experiences, from enrollment to fulfillment of their academic goals, valuing the community cultural wealth students of color bring to college as assets that should be utilized, supported, and sustained. Fear and confidence, anxiety or fear of failure. Everyone wants to succeed. However, for adult learners who are re-entering classrooms or pursuing further training in their jobs, adjusting to the actual learning process can be unsettling. Learning often involves failure or struggles as students adapt to new concepts and ideas, and this oftentimes creates a challenge as they're re-enrolling in college. Finance. This is a huge barrier for adult learners, especially for those who may already be committed to a mortgage, rent, childcare, utilities, and other life obligations. When a young student heads off to college, they can usually rely on the wisdom and the help of their parents or other loved ones and the resources on campuses as others will automatically see a need. The adult learner often does not have these resources or oftentimes have a fear of asking on campuses for these resources. So capitalizing on their experiences and building upon what adult learners already know will add relevance and increase their motivation to learn. So when we think about the strategies we've implemented, and as shared earlier, I work from the Office of Community Colleges and Education Pipeline. So oftentimes we have several grants working with community colleges. For today's session, I'm going to reference the REACH grant that I'm currently working on. So across the country, millions of Black and Hispanic Native American adults are working, caring for children and other dependents and trying to provide the best possible quality of life for their families and themselves. While shared determination and persistence have paid off for some, enabling them to achieve greater social and economic mobility, many more have had their efforts to improve their circumstances impeded by racial inequities in our higher education, workforce, and economic system. And so SUNY is part of a REACH national collaborative with 5 other states, designing to increase credential attainment among adult learners of color ages 25 to 64. And I've mentioned SUNY. So SUNY works in partnership with all our community colleges and community partners who want to reimagine how and where learning occurs. Our goal is to increase the attainment of non-degree credentials and associate degrees in community colleges for adults of color, building off our guided pathways. We aren't reinventing the wheel with our adult learners. We're using all programs that are available in our community colleges. And so for nearly 140 community colleges in California, Colorado, or South New York, North Carolina, Texas, and Virginia are participating in the REACH Collaborative, creating academic pathways that acknowledge and address the needs and lived experiences of adult students of color. If REACH's goal is met, which is increasing the earned by Black, Hispanic, and Native American adults who are enrolled at these participating colleges by 2% within 2 years, thousands of lives will have been impacted and a measurable step toward greater racial and economic equity in our country. In creating these pathways, we are developing a scalable network of pathways. We are creating credit and non-credits that align with credentials in a pathway that leads to an associate degree, along with adopting holistic, bundled, and sequenced supports while implementing equity-focused, culturally responsive teaching and advising. And I've mentioned we are reinventing the wheels on our campuses. We are integrating with current work such as guided pathways, strong start to finish on our campuses. As I mentioned, we are creating and embedding stackable credentials, all including micro-credentials, industry certifications, various certificates, credit for prior learning, PLA, all while flexible, bundled, and sequenced that will sustain student support instruction as they advance in their pathways. We are building on these practices to have a better outcome for adult students. And community colleges play a big part in our framework for developing these academic pathways. And within this framework, there are 3 main pillars. Is 1, credentials to degree pathways, 2, bundled and sequenced support, and 3, culturally sustaining practices. I will share the REACH website in the chat once my presentation is over for you guys to take a look at all the work we've been doing so far. And I've mentioned we have a series of credentialing courses that all culminate into an associate degree. Most have 2 or more credentials that are within high-paying, sustainable job industry-focused areas within the pathway. They are designed with 1 or more employers and engage community and workforce development partners. They are market-driven, focused in high demand and high wage fields. And we do demonstrate to students progression through an educational track to obtain and move through positions with high responsibility and salary. This is just a quick example of one of our REACH pathways at Hudson Valley College to show you what the pathways look like. On the lower left, you see where they start with a biotech micro-credential, which is a hands-on training, and they're able to enter the job field at an entry-level biotechnology industry job, earning about $35,000. As they advance to the biotechnology associate degree, they're able to advance in the ladder and so on. In order to create these pathways, data is very important, and as these are just some of the data resources that our community colleges use as they create the pathways. All this resource, which is data or just feedback or playbooks, they're all listed on our REACH website. So for the interest of time, I won't go through all these, but this is just an example of all the resources we provide to our community colleges, and they're all listed on our REACH webpage. Okay, so what can we do better as a system? Unfortunately, there is no clear, consistent way to be sure credentials have value across the board. However, by aligning short-term credentials with established associate degree programs and the skills that are developed in these programs, there is a greater assurance of quality. It is also important to engage employees in the process to verify that these skills developed in these credential pathways are going to be meeting skill demands and are preparing students for their desired jobs. When we think about what's preventing us from meeting the desire to serve students holistically, needs to consistently work toward inclusive excellence is not a failure to understand the need, but a resistance to completely reimagine how we have organized our institutions to do so. The book Learning Reconsidered offered two key institutional considerations. One, we must move toward transformative learning that engages and recognizes the value of the entire student experience. And two, the holistic process of learning that places the student at the center of the learning experience demands collaboration, and collaboration demands cultural change. And while faculty, advisors, and student affairs professionals may have more direct interaction with our students than other roles on our campuses, the departments are certainly not the only ones that are impacting students' perceptions and feelings of belonging, or even contributing to creating conditions for success. All areas of our colleges and everyone working within those areas should feel a sense of responsibility for racial equity and creating an atmosphere that welcomes and celebrates the cultures and lives of all students, specifically adult learners. We must also support the development of student programs, workshops, and activities to increase access, close the equity gap, and support the ability of students to succeed in and outside the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle, and we'll now hear from Dr. Meyer.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for having me and having invited me. It's an honor to be here. So I've been introduced, and I'm the Director of Academic Affairs for SUNY UCAWD. UCAWD stands for University Center for Academic and Workforce Development. We're a line item in SUNY and funded by the New York State Legislature to serve academically and economically disadvantaged New York State residents. So our students, we serve about 10,000 students before the pandemic a year. They trend female, about 69%. Hispanic, 36% of our students identify as Hispanic, whereas the New York State population that identifies as Hispanic is 19%. In terms of race, 67% of our students identify as Black, and in New York State, 18% of New York State residents identify as Black. Our average age is 33 years and 6 months this year. It trends typically around that age group, and we offer non-credit programming. And our chunk of our programming is academic foundations, which includes English to speakers of other languages, and then academic skills starting at about the 4th and 5th grade levels. But as you can see from the pie chart, I think on your left, not sure, but the program enrollment pie chart, we vary with allied health and trades and other careers, but a big chunk is the academic pathway to get to college. But I'm guessing that you see many students with this level of skills in your institutions. And when I think about our students, we have two primary buckets. The students who made mistakes when they were in school and are ready to engage with their learning again, and then those who struggled with learning and did not receive the support they needed when they were in school. Our barriers for our students, they're the tangible ones, which you're probably very familiar with: childcare, transportation, stable housing, and food insecurity. And then there are the intangible ones, how they see themselves. And Rochelle talked about confidence and feeling of belonging. You know, they weren't successful in academic settings. And so they come in not being clear that they can be successful. Here, again, at this point, and sometimes they even say, particularly at their age, and many of them don't have role models. We had one student who got her high school diploma at 79 so she could hold her grandchildren accountable for completing their high school diploma, that intergenerational role model. And then there's self-assessment abilities. Our students come in wanting the same things we all do: a good life. And I sometimes quip, an applicant will come in and say, oh yes, I have 4 kids under 10 working remotely, and I'm taking care of my mother with a broken leg, but no problem, I can come in for 30 hours a week for your cosmetology program. They don't always know how all the pieces fit together to reach their goals. And they are goal oriented, as Rochelle suggested, but how do you get there is a challenge, I think, that they face. So at a system level, how do we address these challenges, and how do we meet the needs of our students? You know, first we have to question ourselves and what we're doing. And so one of the things that I do is provide data that illuminate issues so that they can be addressed. You know, I have taught kindergarten through masters. I have a developmental lens and really look at our work developmentally. And so, for example, I'll do program review of the same program across centers, and there are clear differences in program performance. So what's happening at one center that isn't happening at another center, so that we can improve what we're doing across the system. And that's system level work. And then also what I'm working on, and I would love input, is developing a suite of assessments. So if you have a high school diploma and you want to go into a welding program, should you take the TABE, which is the test of adult basic education, reading, if you already have your high school diploma? Maybe not. Maybe you take a locator and do the Minnesota Fine Dexterity Assessment to make sure you have the fine motor skills. And I'm going to put it out there because this is a big group. I am looking for solid assessments on executive functions, because our students struggle and don't always have well-developed executive functions in a number of areas. So this is my work and what I look to do to help us progress as a system. Now, as Cheryl mentioned, during the pandemic, I was at the Educational Opportunity Center here in the Capital Region. And in my role as the Director of Academic Affairs there, I oversaw the counselors, which are more academic advisors. And it was the pandemic, and I live on the side of a mountain on a dirt road with not a lot to do. So I said, okay, let me do a research. I designed a research project for myself on how to support student success. So I did a bunch of reading, and a number of my readings are in the bibliography at the end of this presentation. And to be honest, my efforts have been scattered rather than systematic, and it's been fits and starts, but I have a vision for where I think we should go. And one approach that I think is promising is maintaining the learning mind rather than triggering the evaluative mind. Now, my hunch is that 95% of us have heard of the growth mindset. And while that's helpful, you know, we do have to believe that we can all learn. We all come with cognitive infrastructures that allow certain things and don't allow others. But regardless of that, and so that's well and good. This is a little different what I'm about to talk about, and that is, how do we think about talking to our students in terms of learning rather than evaluation? And I'm guessing that most, if not all of us, have had that experience where we're doing something and it's going really well, and somebody says, "Oh my goodness, what a great job." And then all of a sudden we start making mistakes. And my thinking about that is the minute you comment on performance evaluatively, it triggers the evaluative mind. And so, for example, if I said to Jen, "Oh my goodness, Jen, you're my favorite colleague," that immediately means that she couldn't be my least favorite colleague. And so instead of appreciating Jen for her qualities and what she brings to the table in terms of who she is, I'm evaluating who she is. And the minute you start doing that, you get into trouble because you can be as bad as you can be good. And that's where favorites are problematic. "Oh, you're my favorite student. Or you're my favorite child." I don't know how many parents are here, but there's always that kind of jokey thing with parents about, "Oh, I'm your favorite," or "He's your favorite, she's your favorite." It's dangerous territory when it comes to learning. And we use the word evaluation a lot in learning, but it's problematic because we don't dig deeper. And so what I would urge every educator to do is really think about how we trigger evaluative mind, and we can do it by language, but also tone of voice. "Oh, Jen. Oh, Cheryl." Those are two very different greetings using the exact same words. And it's just tone of voice. Compliments. "Oh, you look good today." That means, again, that you could look bad yesterday or could have looked bad. So really, to learn, we need to see things as they are in relationship to where they should be. So for example, it might mean saying, "Wow, your topic sentence in that paragraph was really strong, but your examples supporting it weren't quite aligned as they should be. And that's an area for you to address in your writing." So the goal would be alignment of examples with topic. And the feedback is around the performance related to the goal rather than the human and how well or poorly that person did on the task. And that's true of anything in any discipline. So that's one approach that I think is promising that all of us can do. The other one is goal setting. We hear a lot about this in education, and I'm guessing that many, if not all, have heard of SMART goals. I read Gabriele Oettingen. She's a German psychologist. I don't know where she teaches in the US, but she's a educator and researcher, and she in psychology, and she has a different model for goal setting called WHOOP, which I like saying much more than I do SMART. But what it stands for is wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. And this is research-based, and again, a couple references at the end. And what I think is helpful about this model for our students is that you say, "Oh, I want to," we had an example. One of our counselors was working with one of our students, and he said, "I want to get to class on time. I'm always late." That was his wish. And he would be in better standing with the teacher. It would be better for his learning. But his obstacle was getting up in the morning. And the counselor and he spoke. And what they realized, realized was it wasn't that he needed an extra alarm to get up in the morning, but rather he was going to start setting an alarm for going to bed earlier. And that was his plan. And so WHOOP is another model for goal setting that I believe is better aligned with the needs of our students, because it takes into account obstacles which we all face, and then you can help generate plans for overcoming them. Then lastly, the third promising approach is the values exercise. I first read about it in Claude Steele's book, Whistling Vivaldi, and it's based on research by Jeff Cohen and Julio Garcia. And what it is, it's a values exercise, and we used to do it at the Capital District and orientation, where students would identify their values and then choose their top values and tell us how that value has made your life better. And what this exercise does is it anchors students' experience in that setting in their values rather than performance. And the work started in elementary age students, but now has gone through college level. And the interesting thing about this approach is that students can't know why they're doing it, because the minute they know it's ineffective, which I find fascinating but true. It feels a little sneaky, which I don't love, but because of the outcomes, students, 3rd and 5th grade, the research got better grades, persisted longer. So this is the values exercise. And so what can we do better as a system? In my role, we need to be more systematic, and the fits and starts approach isn't going to work. So we have to be planful and then provide consistent and repeated training for staff, and not be one and done and expect things to take hold. And for me, in terms of my work, I think we do best when we change how our students see themselves. I love those days. And so they change how they see themselves by developing their capacities. Within their programs, concrete skills, they become better writers, thinkers, problem solvers, better at welding, better at doing nails and cosmetology, whatever it is their goals are. Life skills, getting to the school, doing executive function and self-regulation skills, and then the ability to engage in their communities, looking for a job or going to college, digital literacy skills for access, and social skills. And here's the list of references, and I believe you're going to have access to this PowerPoint where you'll get this full list. And thank you for your attention. And I look forward to hearing from my colleague, Susan. Susan.
Thank you. Share my screen here. Thank you so much, Carol. It's a good thing that I had my camera off, because I would have been so distracting, because as you were talking, I'm like, yes, 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 and that, and that, and that. So I really appreciated your presentation. Thank you very much. As we continue our discussion on supporting adult learners, I'm really excited to have the privilege of shining the spotlight on online students and sharing my passion for supporting them. So you might ask, what fuels that passion? It's really that impact that an earned credential can have on the lives of students, their families, their loved ones. It's often an impact that extends to the next generation. And I know that we've all witnessed this, right? It's probably the reason why many of us were drawn to higher ed. And online education has greatly expanded the access to this opportunity. And online student supports plays a critical role in allowing folks to fully take advantage of this expanded access. So let's start by looking at how many SUNY students are enrolled in online courses. So looking at the fall enrollment, fall 2022, which is really the most recent semester with complete data, SUNY enrollment was over 360,000 students. Here you can see the percentage breakdown by sector and exclusively and some online students. And you'll notice that this data actually tracks very closely with national data. According to the U.S. Department of Education, 53% of college students in fall 2022 were enrolled in at least one online class. And that was up from 37% in fall 2019. So as I think about the increase in high flex course offerings, I realize that it's probably going to become a little bit more difficult to accurately track these numbers. And I only mention this because in addition to the exclusively online and the some online students, which we track, there are other students who would also benefit from virtual student supports. And those students, they often expect to be able to access their supports virtually. So today I'm going to focus on really those adults who are exclusively online. Now looking at just those students, fall 2022, who were exclusively online, there was over 51,000. Here's the breakdown by age and sector. So age is an interesting demographic, especially when talking about online learners. Often assumptions are made around age, and often those age assumptions are incorrect when it comes to online learners. It's interesting to note from what I've been reading nationally, there's increasing numbers of institutions who are not strictly using age to define their adult student populations. Many institutions have moved to using FAFSA independent status to define adult, and which probably might even be a better indicator. I mean, if you think about it, that 21-year-old employed parent may fall into the traditional college student age bracket, but we know that how that student engages with their college, their program, their courses, their peers is different and may require different supports. Looking at this chart, we see that 1/3 of the fully online students of fall 2022 were under 22 years old, almost 18,000. I don't know if any of you others are surprised by that. But yes, the under 18 group are most likely non-matriculated, dual enrollment, early college, maybe even homeschoolers taking a course or two. But for the community colleges that have leaned into those programs, they have really benefited from this additional enrollment. And as those populations grow, I can also see an opportunity here for them where a fully supported online student experience for those under 18 could influence their decisions regarding where to matriculate, possibly choosing to stay with their current institution where they were well supported and enrolling in an online program or perhaps even an on-campus program.
Hi.
But the majority of
I'm
the
I'm coming a couple.
But the majority of the under 22 were traditionally aged college students, 18 to 22. It's actually 27% of the total fully online enrollment. So if you think about it, this age group, this is the group that experienced high school during the pandemic and the lost learning that so many of us talk about. So for these students, virtual student supports are especially critical to their success. We also see that 1/3 of the fully online students were 30 and older, is 33.5%. And these students tend to be very career focused. I mean, the primary reason adult online learners cite for enrolling in a degree program is career advancement. So meeting this need and tapping into this motivation is critical and important to keep in mind. So let's talk about what are some of the common barriers to completion for our adult online students. And I really want to highlight 4. Certainly there's plenty more. Lack of time, that work-life education balance or imbalance. Generally speaking, our adult online learners are employed. They're often working full-time or balancing a couple of part-time jobs. They're parents and caregivers responsible for others' financial, physical, emotional well-being. And we all know that the demands of parenting and caregiving can be unpredictable and wreak havoc on a well-planned schedule. So these students are juggling multiple roles and responsibilities, which can be overwhelming. And that's why many adults are drawn to online education, because it is the modality that provides the greatest level of time flexibility. And as a result, often those students with the greatest time demands are our online students. Second, financial constraints. So adult learners may have additional financial responsibilities such as mortgages and rent, childcare, debt, and often balancing educational expenses with daily living costs can be a significant challenge. Technological challenges. Now, not all adult learners are tech savvy. You know, many of them are social media savvy, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily familiar with current educational technologies and systems. So for online students, you know, we got to keep in mind that connection to their college, their professor, their coursework, their peers, support services, technology. But for those with limited technical and digital literacy, learning new online platforms and tools can be especially challenging. Additionally, access to high-speed internet and necessary devices like a laptop may be limited for some adult learners who have to share with other household members. For isolation, for some, online learning can be isolating, lacking the in-person interactions found in traditional classrooms. Some adult learners may miss the sense of community that is actually usually more easily found in person. There's also networking constraints. So adult online learners miss the networking opportunities that can happen organically on campus through before and after class interactions with faculty and peers, as well as through campus-based clubs, special guest speakers, and career-focused events. Some online learners struggle with keeping themselves motivated. Some find it difficult to stay motivated without the structure and the accountability that's provided by traditional settings. So recapping 4 common barriers to online student success: lack of time, financial constraints, technological challenges, and isolation. So let's take a look at some of the strategies for overcoming these barriers. So as we look at best practices for supporting online students, I want to echo what a great colleague of mine often says, which is best practices for online students are truly best practices for all students. And that's especially true today, given today's selection of course modalities, as well as students' expectations regarding delivery of services. So lack of time. Talking about adult learners, I find that time pressure really falls in 2 categories. Daily, they just don't have enough time to handle all of their responsibilities. They have too many roles that they're in, responsibilities that they're trying to manage. Additionally, they also feel the pressure to earn a credential as quickly as possible. So time to completion is so important to adult online learners. Now, remember, most online adult learners cited career advancement as their primary reason for enrolling in a degree program. So for them, a delay in earning a credential often means a delay in meeting the requirements to apply for that better job, or a delay in earning a promotion that comes with increased pay. So as online student support folks, we're always thinking about what can we do to support our students who feel this time pressure. And here I've just noted some of the feedback I've received from adult online students or from those who support them. Number 1, multiple start dates. The national surveys show that adult students looking at online programs expect to start within 60 days. So once they make the decision to go back to school, they don't want to waste time. 7 or 8 week semesters. So this is really a strategy that builds momentum, and maybe it's not always seen by those administrators, but we see it as student support folks. Students feel like they're making faster progress to completion, and it's very motivating. And often they are making faster progress to completion because a shortened semester means less time for a student to experience a life crisis in the middle of a course and not to be able to complete that course. And of course, credit for prior learning. Now, it's really not enough to just offer it. We really need to make sure that online students are aware of this option well prior to first semester course registration and that they know how to proceed. Now, at the course level, it's usually, I hear from students, consistency and flexibility. So they love course templates. They love to be able to go into Brightspace and know that this is this place where I find, let's say, for example, the syllabus in each of my courses. They like consistency and assignment due dates. My discussions due every Tuesday, my essays due every Thursday, whatever it is, a consistency. And a consistency in week-to-week workload. To have 1 week be so heavy in work and then the next week be really light is not a good success strategy for them. And then they really want a preview week with the fully open courses. So what most of these adult students are doing, they're going in, they're reviewing the entire course in that preview week, comparing it and overlaying it on their personal calendar and figuring out how they can make it all work. They don't like to be surprised, open up course, week 5, and then they're like, oh my goodness, this is the week that my son has a basketball tournament and my daughter's got a ballet recital. and I didn't know I had all of these assignments coming. Flexibility. They really appreciate built-in opportunities to flex on assignment deadlines. So it's not just the one-off, like, oh, just talk to me and I will be able to say, you can take an extra week. Because, you know, some adult students are sacrificing important family obligations or opportunities to get that paper done on time. It seems to work better if you can just say everybody has 2 opportunities to delay or postpone a assignment date. And then limited, this one I hear a lot, limited group work that requires synchronous meetings. OERs are fantastic, and I'm so pleased that SUNY is so committed to OERs. If it's not necessary, let's not make a parent decide between purchasing expensive textbooks or signing their children up for the community soccer team. Financial aid counseling. Being able to offer comprehensive financial aid counseling services for online students is very helpful. You can help them navigate the application process and maximize available resources. You know, let them know about information, you know, share information about internal and external scholarships and grants. Ask the online students to ask their employer about any tuition assistance programs. And then, of course, flexible payment plans, you know, providing that flexible payment plan that allows online students to pay tuition and fees in installments, making it easier for them to manage their finances. And then emergency financial aid programs. I know there's a lot of colleges, institutions that have these. Question is, are they available to online students, and are the online students aware? Technological challenges. I believe we do a pretty good job on this, the 24/7 tech support services. It doesn't mean that you have to have, you know, a live person, but do you have a chat bot? Do you have a knowledge base? Is there some way that a student could get information and tech support? DLE orientation is really important. And then offering recorded workshops and trainings on using online tools effectively is fantastic. Something that students, online adult students, can access after hours. Isolation. So we're really talking about building connection and belonging. The first one might sound really silly, but consider mailing campus swag to online students to celebrate their acceptance. I am surprised at how impactful this is to adult online students. Other things to do is to provide virtual spaces where students can connect outside of the LMS, whether asynchronously, synchronously, to ask each other questions or study together. Not everybody's interested in this, but for those who are, it's really important. And of course, designing courses with opportunities for meaningful dialogue and peer-to-peer and student-instructor interactions. Most online students truly value connection with their instructors. And then offering virtual career events and networking opportunities. Again, primary reason adult online learners cite for enrolling in a degree program is career advancement. Hosting virtual career events with special speakers and providing networking opportunities for online learners is a powerful retention and completion strategy. And we can be creative. I love what SUNY Plattsburgh is doing. They hire alumni who are employed in the accounting field. They hire their alumni employed in the accounting field to provide virtual tutoring for their upper level accounting courses. I love this approach. It's like networking and tutoring in one. And then last, but probably the most effective online student support is providing dedicated online student success coaches to our students. Now, they provide proactive support and guidance to help students stay motivated and focused and overcome obstacles. Now, having that go-to person who provides personalized support really does help students navigate the online learning environment more effectively and achieve their academic goals. Now, I wanted to mention to support all of us who are supporting online students across SUNY and New Community of Practice, the Online Student Success Collaborative. was launched this past fall with the goal of providing opportunities for SUNY colleagues to benefit from each other's expertise and co-create best practices for a holistic approach to online student support. So currently, this community practice has over 120 members from over 30 SUNY institutions, and members serve in a variety of roles, everything from online advisors, success coaches, online program chairs, directors of online learning, and instructional designers. And our meeting topics have included onboarding online students, online student communication plans, using Brightspace to foster student connection and engagement, and using student feedback to inform our work. And we always welcome new members, so reach out to me if you're interested. And before I close, I want to highlight a couple of the online supports that are happening at SUNY. And due to the time limitations, I'm going to focus just on Genesee Community College and a few of the supports offered by Loy Gross, who's an online learning specialist, and her team. And Loy with Emily Kuhn from SUNY Plattsburgh serve on the Online Student Success Collaborative Community Practice Planning Team, and I am very grateful for their involvement. So I want to highlight two synchronous support options. GCC offers a monthly Ask Me Anything session hosted by Loy, where students can drop in, get answers to their questions. Questions asked have included everything from how to set up next semester's schedule to what are options available for unexpected homelessness in mid-semester. So these sessions are advertised through Brightspace Pulse app, GCC's student portal, the Discord, and social media. GCC has also recently launched a Study With Me, a synchronous session that provides students the opportunity to connect and study with their peers in a virtual motivational environment. And that again is hosted by an online student support specialist. But we know that not all online students are able to or want to connect with their peers synchronously. So GCC created a closed Discord chat room, the Study Exchange, where students can connect with their peers and asynchronously. Weekly study tips are posted. Peer-to-peer collaboration is encouraged. And finally, one of their success strategies is to connect the online students very early with these two apps. So the Brightspace Pulse app, which is a good communication channel. Busy online students who cannot log in during the workday can access messages and course announcements immediately. And then they lean heavily on Discord chat. Students are directed how to download the Discord app if they are already there and join the GCC server. And then they verify that they're GCC students. And currently GCC has about 400 students on it. And students are able to interact asynchronously, often posting questions and answering each other's questions after hours. So GCC does have a small team that monitors the Discord. It includes a marketing communications person, a couple of online learning staff, 2 success coaches, a librarian, a tutor, and a res hall director. And they also have a full-blown moderation bot that looks for language, both typed and spoken, as well as inappropriate images. And they have had very, very few issues. So now, a lot of this stuff, I do want to say, similar things are happening across SUNY. And again, just due to the time constraints, I just wanted to highlight what's going on at GCC. Lastly, I want to share a few resources and again, invite SUNY folks who are interested to join the SUNY Online Student Success Collaborative Community Practice. We would love to have your participation in our conversations as we share and co-create best practices for online student support. So please reach out to me and I'll make sure I get you added to the community.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. I'm gonna ask our presenters to turn their cameras back on so we can just highlight you for, we do have a couple questions that I want to make sure that we can address. And Carol, if you're still with us, hopefully you can answer this as well. So
Right here.
oh, there, there we are. Great. So, Susan, I believe this question was kind of directed to you really quickly. Someone was asking, does online include, so you were showing the graph, I believe, at this time. Does online include synchronous instruction in the amount of students that are participating in online courses, when you were sharing that graph, people were wondering, does this online include the synchronous instruction piece, which I'm guessing that it does, but I wanted you to answer that.
Yes, so that data was taken from the SUNY IR. And so if it's being reported as an online section, then it was included.
Okay, I figured that. So we have two questions. One is asking, pardon me, when I think of adult learners or potential adult learners, I often think about the lived experience and potential for accelerated pathways that take into account their experience in exchange for credits. Do we have programs throughout SUNY that have ways to count life experience towards credits, have valid ways to assess? And I know some of you spoke about this. If so, is there a comprehensive list someplace of which degrees? If not, what are our barriers to creating something like this? It's kind of a big question. I don't know who wants to tackle it. I know a couple of you talked about PLA, which is kind of encompassing this. So if anyone wants to kind of jump in there and see if you have some answers to that, and I can repeat anything if you need. That's a big one, right? I'm asking the presenters if anybody has any details you want to share there.
I think SUNY's in the process of developing that comprehensive list, but to my understanding, I don't think one exists currently. And it is institution specific and program specific at this point.
I concur with that statement. It varies throughout different campuses, but I know for sure. I just know my colleague Michelle Ford added to the chat about SUNY Empire. They have a more detailed process, but as mentioned, it varies by campuses, and SUNY is in the process of creating a comprehensive list.
Thank you. Another person asked a question in overcoming the lack of time barrier. I believe that was you, Susan, and correct me if I'm wrong if someone else brought that up as well. You mentioned limited group work that requires synchronous meetings, but then the solution to isolation include more synchronous events and meetings. The two, limited time and isolation, feel at odds with each other. What are some suggestions to navigate these? Is this the idea to have more voluntary synchronous events, but less required synchronous activity?
That's a great question. And I think she hit it right on the nose there, right? As if it's not required. So there are, I mean, even when we look at the age span of online learners, right? That is so diverse. And that's just one example of diversity in online learners. And there's some who, you know, I'll talk to some adult online learners and they're like, I just want to take my courses. I just want to get my degree and I want to get out there. I have enough friends. Like they're not looking for connection like the traditionally aged 18-year-old on campuses. However, there are some who do and want that. And so that's why, like using GCC's example, where they're offering options that are synchronous, but also offering options that are asynchronous. I think it's something that Rochelle pointed to, that they like that autonomy, right, of being able to make that decision how they want to engage with their peers.
Well, that is all that we have in our questions, and we are at time. I want to thank all three of you for joining us today. This was a great session. We will be sharing slides. I know people were asking about that as well. There's so much information in there, so we'll be happy to do that as well. Thank you all again, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.